Welcome back to the show. We are super stoked to have, well, you all know if you listen to the show, we love the Sutter family. Brett Sutter was gracious enough to give us some time today. Just retired, captain of the Wranglers for a couple seasons, fourth all time in AHL games played. Hell of a career. Played some games for the Flames. I remember when you were drafted and scored your first goal. It was assisted by Craig Conroy, I think, if I remember correctly. So that's a pretty cool connection.
Yeah.
And now you're joining as an assistant coach of the Calgary Wranglers. How's it going? How's the summer been? I know it's been hectic. How you feeling?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me. First of all, it's been good. It's been a busy last 2 or 3 weeks. Obviously, switching gears from training and trying to be a player, which I'm used to, and learning this coaching thing. So excited for the challenge, and it's been good so far.
Sweet. So I kind of wanted to open up. I mean, we're around the same age. I think back to growing up and watching Rock'em Sock'ems and all this stuff, and just being a part of the Canadian culture. But I have to ask, like, what was it like growing up in arguably the greatest hockey family ever? Like, the six brothers make it to the NHL. I'm sure you're just steeped in it. What kind of what was it like? I'm just trying to get a sense of your growing up in that family.
I think it becomes normal, obviously. For me, that was dad's job, and I was lucky enough to be that kid that got to go hang out in the rinks on days where we weren't at school and meet some pretty cool players and people that you idolize. But no, I think it became pretty normal. You kind of, growing up in minor hockey, you kind of learn to put the noise aside and put the name aside and try to kind of carve your own path. But it's very cool, like when you get to family reunions and they're all there and you hear all the stories they tell and the people they know, and it's a special family. I think people don't really get to see the non-hockey part of the family and how close they are and how good of people they are, and it's incredible family to be part of.
I bet. So 2004, the Flames go on their epic Stanley Cup run, just fall short. I'm guessing you're how old? Like, almost 20-ish. So what was it like for you? I know you were playing hockey at the time, I think in the WHL. But I would imagine your season ended. Were you part of the fan club or what?
Oh yeah, I got pictures with my now wife and my cousin Brandon, who we both had all of us had our faces painted and green hard hats on. I still got the picture. So what a ton of fun. The city was absolutely flying for the Red Mile and the flags on every car you drove by. It was an awesome time to be in the city, and you just hope that we can do that again one day.
Yeah, horns honking until 2 a.m. every night after the wins.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah, remember the teams were complaining because the fans would drive by the hotel at night honking all night. That's a good Canadian city right there.
That was epic. What kind of an impact does that leave with you as a player, an aspiring player trying to make the NHL? Yeah, I mean, I know it was epic, but
I think for me, just like I was drafted to the Flames a couple years after that, so like you still have that excitement and taste of your mouth of like the vibe that the city had and the excitement, and you kind of just want to be a part of it. When I was drafted, a lot of those players were still on the team, and they were guys that were always great to me. And talk about like Iggy and Connie and Regier and Kipper, like all these guys that were, a couple years earlier, you were, looking up to them as legends and idols, and now you're sharing an ice surface with them. So I think just the excitement as a young player and trying to break into the league and break into pro hockey was a pretty unbelievable first experience.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be pretty cool to score your first goal. Like I said, I think Conroy assisted on it. Did he not? I remember it. I remember it like it was yesterday, which is crazy because it was long ago. But was that your first game in the NHL too, or did you score?
Yeah, it was my first game. It was actually a pretty funny story. I was home. I went to the farm for Christmas break, and I didn't bring any of my gear with me. So that was when the American League team was in Quad City. And so I went home for Christmas break. We had 3 days. I was going to snowmobile and hang out with my family. And probably mixing a few cocktails. And I'd been at the farm for like 1 hour after landing. And I got a call that I think someone was sick, and they're like, "You got to come up and play tomorrow in Calgary." And I'm like, "What?" Like, I don't have any gear or nothing. So I like bust out to my garage. I start going through all my old gear. Like I pull out a bunch of like Red Deer Rebel and Kootenai Ice stuff. Like,
No way.
I went for pregame skate the next morning, and the stuff felt like it was ancient. My skates felt like they didn't even fit. I'm like, this isn't going to be good. And then, yeah, nerves kind of took over that night, and everything felt normal. And I was lucky enough to, score that night. It was a big win because they were kind of right in the thick of the playoff hunt then. And Connie assisted it, and Gio, who also was great to me over the course of my career. So, it was cool to have two people you care about a lot being in the pile, celebrating with you, and having lots of family and friends in the crowd.
Awesome. Great story. So your dad drafts you in 2005. Is that just normal at that point? I mean, you said you grew up in the family used to it, or is that kind of a special moment? Obviously, coming to the Flames, you're kind of in and out of, the organization as a kid. What was that moment like?
Well, I was really excited, I guess, but there's probably emotions on both sides. At the time, I kind of wanted to, maybe not, have that hanging over my head and hearing people talk about it. And at the same time, it was special because, you're going to, the city that you call home now, and the team that you love so much. So I think it was both emotions. It didn't take long for me to fully embrace it and just get excited about coming to Calgary. I was at Big Valley Jamboree with all my friends when they called me and told me I was drafted. So it was a little bit of a celebration.
That's
at that
awesome.
Moment. But yeah, no, it was exciting.
I could still hear the commercial, Big Valley Jamboree.
Next weekend.
Nice.
Are you going?
No, I'm not. I'm not going. But I still got lots of buddies from back home.
Oh yeah.
Cool. 5 years later, your dad then trades you. I'm also curious, how did that go down? Did he let you know? What was that like?
I kind of knew it was coming for a few weeks. At that point, they didn't think I was going to go through waivers, and I wasn't playing a lot with the Flames. I was kind of stuck as like the 13th guy. So I think I kind of had gotten a little bit of a heads up. It was a sad moment. I became close with all the guys in the Flames and, the staff and everybody. And I was, first time making the club out of camp and living in Calgary. So it was sad, but you know what? I think it ended up being best for my career. I grew up real quick when I went to Carolina and met some great people. Probably some of the best coaches that I'd ever had there that made me a better player and better person. So I think at the end of the day, it was great, but at the time, it really stung.
So did Daryl give you the call?
He did. I think he was overseas scouting actually when he called me. But we were on the road and we were doing a team workout. I forget what city we would have been in, and someone pulled me out of the room and said, "Your dad's on the phone in the middle of the team workout." I'm like, "Ah, shit! Like, what's this about?" And he said that I had been traded. I'm like, "Oh man, where?" Yeah, across the country to Carolina. I was like, yeah, okay, here we go. But no, he did it for the best of the team and for the best of me. And that was clear picture right when he started. He was going to do what was best for the Flames and not just for me. And I respect that. And like I said, I think it worked out best for me in the long run.
You could go down in history as the only player traded by his dad, right?
There's got to be another one, right? There's got to be another one.
I don't know.
I feel like there is.
Yeah. Well, no bad blood. No bad blood. Just some shots around the campfire once in a while.
Yeah.
No kidding, eh? We love your dad. Well, we love the entire family, but we have obviously special place in our hearts for Mr. Sutter, don't we, Jordan?
Oh yeah. 100%.
I can't say there's many Calgary media that really have that special place for him, but
hey, that's part of the reason why we love him so much. He's a good man. I respect him greatly.
He's a good man.
So 12 years later, you circle back to the Flames organization, um, captain of the Calgary Wranglers, retiring last season, now switching gears to head coach, or sorry, assistant coach. But potential future head coach of the Flames, is this, I know it's early, but
Yeah.
what's your vision here, and what do you hope to accomplish?
Yeah, you know what? Just for now, just set your vision in the short term. I just want to become the best coach I can. I want to help the Wranglers and Color and his staff. Help these guys win games. Help these guys that became some of my best friends get to the NHL. That's a pretty gratifying thing. So yeah, you know what? I have a lot to learn. I get that. I've been working every day since it happened to get to that point. And I always have aspirations of being in the NHL, and that time may come. But first things first, you got to put your time in and your work in, and like I said, lots to learn still.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be, what kind of transition is that like? Like, I've heard you talk about this a little bit. Obviously, you got to draw a line with some guys that you're probably buddies with and, been hanging out with the past few years. But what's that transition
Yeah,
looking
you know
like?
what? It's been good. I've talked to quite a few of the guys already. I've a few more guys I still got to reach out to, but they're excited to have someone that they really trust and trust their word, and they know the game well enough to be in the locker room. And they're great kids. I know they're going to respect me, and they'll help me just as much as I'll help them. So it's funny. Like the week that I signed, I was at one of my teammates' wedding with all those guys, and then a few days later, I'm their coach. So that's just where you have to draw that line and say, like, listen, guys, we'll be friends for life, but now I'm a coach and you're a player, and it's my job to make you a better player. And sometimes that can be rocky, and sometimes it's going to be smooth. But as long as there's that level of respect for each other, it'll all be good.
So, I mean, he's really well known for being able to get the best out of players, sometimes to the extent of losing some players in the process.
Yeah, they're
Uh,
soft.
right. But what would you say your style is? Maybe it's too early to tell, but going into this career shift, do you think you have a coaching style? Is it going to be similar? How do you approach it?
I think that's something you kind of grow into. I think there's definitely a time when players still need to be pushed. I think a little bit of that old school is still a good thing.
Yeah.
But the kids have changed a lot now.
Yeah.
As assistant coach, for me, it's going to be more about teaching right now, and you leave the pushing and prod into the head coach, and I think that's kind of where you can feel your way out and see stuff you like and see stuff you don't like, and what might work and what might not. And I think you really got to get to know the players really well to see what works for certain guys and what doesn't. That's really part of it. So um, I'm not gonna put my fingerprints quite yet on what style I'm gonna be, but I just think you can always adapt and always grow, as you move on.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
mentioned like in Carolina, you had some coaches and people who, really influenced you. And obviously you've got all the connection with like your dad and your uncles all being great NHL head coaches. Are there anybody specific who like, you really learned a lot from as a coach over your time in the A and the NHL and just in hockey in general?
I was lucky in the American League. I always had really, really good coaches, guys that you could, they pushed you hard and you could sit down with. But they made me a better player. I think right from the time I was in Quad City, my first coaches were Ryan McGill and Scotty Allen. And at the time, I was a 6th-round pick. I wasn't a overly skilled guy, and Gilly pushed me hard on the mental side of the game, and Scotty Allen would take me aside for an hour after practice and work on stuff. And those are things that I look to do as when I'm a coach. Just if you can help a player individually, do whatever you can to help them. And those guys were great for it. When I went to Carolina, Jeff Daniels and Jordy Kinnear, who have both made a heck of a career for themselves. JD's on a great Carolina team now. They were both unbelievable people. They were they helped me a lot in that transition where I was moving organizations. I was just out of being a young player in the league and ready to, try to make the NHL and try to take on a bigger role in the American League. And just the communication they had with me and how hard they worked to make me a better player. It was incredible. And those are things that, I'm going to try to adapt and follow their footsteps.
Cool. Have you discussed or defined your role as an assistant coach, working with defense, power play, any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So after the coaches' meetings with the Flames staff, we had some with the Wranglers as well. I think everyone's got a pretty clear picture on what they have to do. Without getting into too much of it, I'll be in charge of the forwards and the power play, kind of everything related to the offensive side of the red line. And Joe will be in charge of everything on the defensive side of the red line, more or less. So. Joe Seravalli and Trent Cull are both great people. They've both, been a phone call away whenever I have had any questions here as I'm going through all the video and learning all these new programs and stuff. So, I think just learning how to teach things is going to be the difference. When you're a player, you get just zoned in on almost the military mentality of doing whatever the coach says, and you're not thinking about too much about how they're teaching it. You're more just thinking about learning it. And now you just try to do the other side of it. I know the systems well. I know, the skills that players need to be successful in today's game. So now it's just about adapting and how do you teach these methods and these systems.
Obviously, you've had a lifetime's worth of hockey experience. What do you think you can really bring to the Wranglers organization, Flames organization, coming into this new position?
I think just communication, really. There's not many situations I haven't been in pro hockey at this point. I've been the fourth liner in the American League. I've been the first line guy that's depended on to score goals. I've been the call up guy. I've been the guy that's made the team out of camp and got sent down. I've kind of been through all the things that the kids at this level are going to go through. So I think just to be able to, talk them through situations, having them comfortable enough to come to me and ask for help or ask to watch, the film from the day before and just having that relationship with them, I think is going to be the biggest strength I'll have.
Awesome.
Yeah. The Wrangler, it's going to be an interesting season for you guys. It's kind of cool that you've been there. It's really cool the last 2 years. You have a really good, I think you guys were you first place in the year before last. So awesome season. Obviously with a lot of your kind of really important players coming up to the Flames this past season, it was maybe a bit tougher with guys like Zeri and Pospisil graduating. Have you had a chance to kind of sit down and think about you don't know your roster, but what are the expectations for this upcoming season for you guys?
I think you always have high expectations. We've had a lot of turnover this year from last year, just like we did the year before, and that's kind of the story of the American League. Obviously American League rosters are heavily dictated on what happens with the big club. So, but I think your goal is always first and foremost to get in the playoffs. Once you get there, anything can happen. Your rosters can change a lot in playoffs too. So you know what? I don't think anything really changes. Our goal is to win games, and our goal is to get better individually each day. And I think when the individuals get better, the team gets better. And playoffs is definitely the goal that we want.
Can we expect to see Chris now that you're sticking around? Is he still going to be at the Wranglers games?
He will always be a Wranglers and Flames diehard. Nothing will ever change that. So
perfect.
He's playing in a big softball tournament here next weekend, and he's Team Flames. He's got Flames t-shirts, hats, and Wranglers shorts. So he is going to be decked out, sporting the boys. There's nothing that's going to change him, even, when I'm long gone from this organization. Hopefully that's not for many years, but he is a Flames diehard. So.
Has he given you any tips yet? Has he got any coaching ideas for the upcoming year?
Nothing yet. He's still a little sad that I'm not playing.
Oh yeah, that's true.
He's been my biggest fan. I understand that. he used to have lots of tips for my coaching staff, though. I'd always make him promise before I bring him in the locker room, no coach's room, no coach's room. Sure enough, I couldn't find him for 15 minutes, and he'd be up there yelling at him because I wasn't on the first line or not on the power play. He's a fiery guy. He's a fiery guy, but he's passionate, and I like that.
Well, he has that story. He had that tip for Uyghur. Uyghur couldn't score for a while, and then eventually turned the page, and they asked him about it, and he said that Chris suggested he needed to shorten the stick up. So I think he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, he's got lots of good tips. Can only listen to so many of them.
Yeah, no kidding. We're obviously diehard Flames fans. It's been nice to see the Wranglers come to Calgary, give us a chance to go see games in person. I know fans are excited about that. We get to see a little bit more of, the younger guys before they make their debuts and whatnot. But, speaking about some of these guys that you've played with in the last 2 seasons, Wolf, Zari, Pospisil, Coronado, and Peltier, I just kind of wanted to maybe talk about these guys for a minute. Dustin Wolf, obviously he's set all these records in basically every league he's played up until the NHL. Looks like he's going to get a really good shot this season to solidify himself as a NHLer. What can you tell us about Dustin Wolf? We're very excited about him. Do you think he has what it takes to have a successful NHL career?
Yeah, Wolfie's a great kid. I just talked to Wolfie this morning, actually. I think the biggest thing for Wolfie is he's a huge competitor. So, if he's got a flaw in his game, he is the type of guy that, won't sleep at night until he finds a way to fix it. And I think that's his biggest strength. He's got incredible abilities. He's probably one of the best skating goalies, NHL or AHL, which is why he can get by with his size that everyone talks about. But I definitely think he's going to be a full-time guy one day. I think he's going to be an impactful NHL player. And, I'm excited to see where his future is going to take him.
So practice is over. You guys are doing breakaways. You're coming down on Wolf. What move are you doing?
I don't have any moves anymore.
Just go shoot.
Close your eyes and rip it.
Yeah, that's just shoot. Yeah, just shoot.
I did want to ask you about one more individual player, or maybe a couple more, but Jacob Peltier in particular, because he's a guy that's kind of, struggled with some injury problems. You've kind of seen like maybe a player like Pospisil who struggled with similar injury problems, didn't really get a chance at the NHL level, kind of struggled to get in, then all of a sudden emerged as this impact NHL player. Any thoughts on just kind of working with guys who maybe like they're going through some injury problems, things aren't going or shit's not going right, it's not working, it's just like, man, like if I could just get this on the right track.
Yeah, you know what? I think last year was just tough for Pelts. Like you miss that much time, you come back, like you got to make sure you trust your body again. You're still trying to get your strength back, your conditioning back. And I think he just dealt with that all year, but he's such an energetic kid. He's got such a passion for the game. I'm sure he's going to have a huge summer this summer and come back with vengeance in September because for how good a teammate he was when he came down to the Wranglers, you could tell that it was eating at him that he wasn't up. So I think he's going to carry that into the summer, and I expect him to be a heck of a player come camp. He can play so many different roles, so I think he's valuable to the team. He could easily fill in top 6 if needed, but he's a really good checking two-way player, and I don't think people give him enough credit for that. As how smart he is, how good he is at tracking, getting under sticks, getting pucks back. Maybe not always going to be the guy that puts up huge numbers, but he does so many things to help everybody else on the ice, and I think that's his biggest strength.
Cool. Yeah, we haven't really had him, have a real good stint in the NHL yet, just with injuries and whatnot. But he's got that tenacity to his game that if he can kind of figure out a way to bring that on a regular basis, put up some numbers, he might just stick around.
Yeah, I think he will one day too. He's a good player. He's a really good player. Injuries can kind of set a guy off for a year, but he's not the kind of guy that's going to let that linger. And like I said, he's going to come ready to go this year.
Awesome. Matt Coronado, He's been an interesting player to watch progress as well. Mikey and I both love his game. We liked what we saw last season from him. We were hoping to see him play more, get more opportunities, power play opportunities. I guess the organization still values the AHL to develop his game a bit. What have you seen from him, and what do you expect from Matt?
You know what? He's a puck hound. He's always around the puck. Um, he's got quick little hands. He's probably an underrated playmaker. Everyone thinks of him as a shooter, but you know what? He sees the ice really well because he's so smart. And then he obviously has the shot, which is his biggest weapon. So I don't think it was a detriment at all that he spent time in the AHL. I think you know, playing big minutes beats the heck out of, you know, playing 10 minutes up top or whatever it was going to be. So he's just going to keep getting better. He's a great kid. He works hard. He trains hard, and you know, I think as he gets used to this, you know, longer schedule that pro hockey has, he's just going to keep growing.
When you see guys like Zari and Pospisil take that step last season and solidify themselves, they brought a lot of energy into the team last season, helped turn Kadri's game around. They were awesome. I thought they were, you know, two of the best forwards all season long. What how do you see them making that jump, like from AHL just to NHL? Now they're basically shoo-ins to make the team next season. What goes into that?
You know what? I think for Czar, it was just the progression. I think he needed those couple years in the American League. I think he really started to see the second half of the season, the year that we were first place, his game really came along. Just his ability with the puck is that's the NHL style game now, is puck possession and being able to make those plays in tight areas, and that's his strength. So I think for him, it was a matter of time whether that happened, you know, last year, this year, it was going to happen. And I think for Posby, really, it was, you know, just staying healthy. Like everyone thinks that he kind of came out of nowhere, but no one talks about 2 years ago. He was the only guy. He was the only guy that was asked to skate with the big group until he got injured, and then he kind of was hurt all year. So I know that was the guy that my dad always talked about, was saying he was going to be a player, and then he had, you know, tough concussion trouble, knock on wood, and some other shoulder stuff and everything. So for him, it was just about staying healthy, because he can skate. He's a big, strong man. He's got all the tools, and he's got a bit of fire in his game, and guys like that can always find a role in the NHL.
You're probably glad he wasn't around at the Wranglers practice much longer. He's pissing everybody off, driving everybody nuts. It's probably like, oh, thank goodness.
He does always piss everybody off. The AHL practices are like that a lot more in the NHL, though.
Yeah.
Guys are still trying to, you know, make their mark, and, you know, trying to move up the lineup. And where in the NHL, you kind of know what your role is and where you fit in, and you're almost, I don't want to say more secure, because you're always pushing each other, but sometimes practices in the American League get a little chippy, and that's part of the fun of it.
Yeah, I heard the story. I think it was Uyghur. Uyghur was saying, yeah, Pospisil ran me like the first practice. He's going hard at me in the corner. I was like, oh, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, that sounds like Pospisil so much.
Okay, so how much have you been following the team? Obviously, the big turnover. The organization does not want to call it a rebuild, but walks and talks, and, you know, looks like a rebuild. Conroy at the helm. Iginla's going to be joining as well. We got Sutter's back in the organization. Are you excited for what you see from an NHL level standpoint? What's your overall take on where this thing's heading?
I think I like the direction they're heading. You know, they're getting younger, they're getting faster. I think they have a clear plan in place. You know, they still have lots of cap space to do things if they really want to. But, you know, Connie's a good man. I'm sure he's thought long and hard about all these moves he's making, and I think you just have to put your trust in him. So I like the direction they're going. I've liked the things they've done, and, you know, just give it a year or two here, and they'll be in a way better place.
Yeah, we used to have this saying when Daryl was GM, in Sutter we trust. It's now become in Connie we trust. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, we were sad to see Daryl go, especially, in the way it did. He, from our perspective, he became kind of the scapegoat of, what was actually not that bad of a season as a whole. There were some individual performances, I think, that really held the team back, and he took the brunt of it. But that's I guess kind of the guy he is.
Yeah, you know what? That's he's been around the game long enough, so it's not the first time he's been fired. He was fired after he won 2 cups in LA too. Yeah. So he's a tough man. He understands the business. I think deep in his heart, he's still always going to be a Flames fan, just because he's such a proud Albertan. And yeah, it was sad, but that's part of the game.
We talked about getting some coaching tips from Chris, but is Daryl gonna play that role too, or?
We'll see, I guess. We've had a few discussions about it. I'm going up there to see him for a week here in August, so I'm sure we'll have a little more of a sit down then. But he's always been big about finding your own way. So if I don't ask, he's probably not gonna tell me, and I'm fine with that too.
Cool.
All right, cool, man. Well, hey, we really appreciate you joining us. Like we said, we have a great love and respect as both Albertans for your entire family. Your dad gave I think during the Oilers playoff series, he gave the most uniting Alberta speech I've ever heard, talking about hockey brings Albertans together and music brings Albertans together. It was great. So really, really awesome to be able to talk to you today. We really appreciate it.
Sounds like him.
Yeah, it was great. If coaching is too much, maybe he could get into politics or something. I don't know.
Don't tempt him. Don't tempt him.
Oh, I'd love to tempt him. It'd be great.
Yeah.
Anyways,
all right, guys. No,
congratulations.
Really appreciate it.
Good luck on the season. We'll be pretty much at every single game as much as we can.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out more of our content right here on the Flames Nation YouTube page. We had a bunch of great long form interviews. You can check out some videos we've done as well outside of the studio. And of course, if you want more writing or merchandise stuff, flamesnation.ca or nationgear.ca. Appreciate you watching.